Imagine this. You're walking down a street that you have been on 100 times before. Everything is familiar, the stores, the sounds, the smells. Then suddenly, the air feels thick and everything has changed. The street has turned into a dirt path. The buildings have vanished. And the cars? Gone. Now replaced by horse-drawn carriages. People dressed in old-fashioned clothes walk past, and they are staring at you like you don't belong there. Then, in the blink of an eye, it's over. The world snaps back to normal, and you are left standing there, wondering, what just happened? Welcome to the mind-bending world of time slips, a phenomenon that defies everything we think we know about time. In this series, we're diving into some of the most bizarre, fascinating, and chilling stories from people who claim they've accidentally stepped through time itself. So what exactly is a time slip? Most of us think of time as linear, a straightforward progression from past to present and onward to the future. But what if time isn't as stable as we believe? What if certain moments in history are layered on top of each other, like pages in a book, and under the right conditions, we accidentally flip to the wrong page? A time slip is exactly that, an unexpected moment where a person finds themselves in another time period. It can last just seconds or feel like minutes, but it's always incredibly real, so real that it can make you question your sanity. But when it's over, there's no evidence left behind, only a memory that haunts you. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's where the mystery begins. One of the most famous cases of a time slip happened in 1901, when two highly respected Oxford academics, Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were sightseeing at the Palace of Versailles in Paris. After touring the grand halls, they set off to explore the Petit Trianon, a smaller palace in the gardens that had been Marie Antoinette's private retreat. But as they walked, they unknowingly strayed off the main path. Instead of the grand boulevards, they found themselves on a narrow, unmarked lane. As they wandered through the gardens, they began to feel uneasy. The atmosphere changed, and everything grew silent and quiet. No breeze, no birds, no people. Just this strange, heavy stillness. The world seemed flat and hazy, just like a faded photograph. They soon realized they were lost, and suddenly strange things began to happen. First, they noticed two men standing near a gazebo, dressed in old-fashioned long green coats and tricorn hats. The men directed them toward the Petit Trianon, speaking French, but with a dialect and tone that seemed oddly archaic, as if from another time. Charlotte then noticed a woman shaking a cloth out of a window. Eleanor spotted an old farmhouse with an abandoned plough out front. These weren't just sights out of place, they felt frozen in time. Further along, they encountered more strange figures. They passed a stone cottage where a woman and a girl stood by the door. The woman was handing a jug to the girl, but something about the whole scene was off. It was like time had stopped. The motion felt frozen, like they weren't real people, but mannequins in some kind of bizarre display. They started to realize that something was seriously wrong. Then, things took a dark turn. As they walked further, they saw a man sitting near a garden kiosk. His face was dark, pockmarked, and he was just sitting there, staring. The atmosphere felt heavy with danger. But before they could process what was happening, another man appeared out of nowhere, urgently motioning for them to go in a different direction, away from the ominous figure by the kiosk. They followed the man and quickly found themselves at the Petit Trianon. As they reached the lawn in front of the Trianon, Charlotte saw a woman calmly sketching. She was dressed in this light, old-fashioned summer dress with a white hat. Now, at first, Charlotte thought she was just another visitor. But the more she looked, the more it felt like this woman didn't belong in the same time as them. But before Charlotte could think too much about it, a footman appeared, guiding them to a different entrance, telling them they were on the wrong side of the building. And then, just like that, the eerie feeling vanished. As they rounded the corner, they were suddenly surrounded by a lively wedding party. Laughter, music, people, everything snapped back to normal. It was like the spell had been broken and they were back in the present. After the experience, both women felt they had witnessed something paranormal. When they later studied portraits of Marie Antoinette, they became convinced that the woman sketching was the ill-fated queen herself. Through further research, they concluded they had been transported to 1792, the final year before the French Revolution toppled the monarchy. But the story doesn't end there. When Charlotte and Eleanor returned to Versailles a few years later, things were different. The mysterious bridge they had crossed was nowhere to be found, and the kiosk where they had encountered the men was also missing. At first, they thought they had imagined the details, until they discovered an 18th century map showing the exact locations of the bridge and kiosk they had seen. In 1911, they published their story under pseudonyms Elizabeth Morrison and Francis Lamont in a book titled An Adventure. The book became an instant hit, but not everyone was convinced. Some historians suggested that the women might have stumbled upon a costume party, as eccentric poet Robert de Montesquieu, who lived nearby, was known to host such events. Others pointed out inconsistencies in their story. For instance, Charlotte didn't recall seeing the sketching woman until months later, while Eleanor never mentioned her at all. But then again, how did they describe details of 18th century Versailles they shouldn't have known? The old map they found years later showing the footbridge and kiosk in the exact locations they'd seen them is a mystery that continues to baffle historians. There is no tangible proof, no photographs, no souvenirs from the past. All we have are their vivid memories, documented in their book, and a historical map that hints at something strange. But their story has ignited a century-long debate about the nature of time and the possibilities that lie beyond our understanding. Could time slips be real? Could there be moments when the boundaries between past, present, and future blur, letting us step into another era? Whatever the answer, the tale of Charlotte and Eleanor is one of the most intriguing in the world of the paranormal, and as we'll see in future episodes, their experience is far from the only one. If this story fascinated you, stay tuned. We'll be diving into more incredible tales of time slips and accidental time travelers in future episodes. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might just change how you see the world. But before you go, tell us in the comments, what do you think? Is time travel real? Or are these just tricks of the imagination? We'd love to hear your thoughts.